We are rolling. Hey guys, it's your buddy Jake Dominguez back with another movie review. So if you've seen my channel recently, you know that I'm going to start to record some Halloween themed reviews. I'm going to review some of my favorite scary movies and some of my favorite thrillers or just Halloween related movies. And it's going to be a lot of fun. And you guys know that if I'm going to record some videos about some scary movies, it only makes sense that I record a video for the movie that pretty much invented the horror movie. Now, scary stories and scary movies existed before this one, but there's not one movie that is more influential to horror and really so influential as movies in general as Psycho. Movie that came out, I believe, in 1960, directed by the incredible, the man, the legend, Alfred Hitchcock. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. It's one of the greatest films ever, one of the most influential movies ever, and I'm going to do a quick review for it today. Now, one quick thing I want to say. This movie has tons of spoilers and twists in it. Every movie has spoilers in it. That doesn't make anything stupid, Jacob. What I mean is that this movie has tons of things you don't want to be spoiled. There's tons of twists and turns. Because of that, this movie review is going to be spoiler-free. I'm not going to review anything that has anything to do with the spoilers in the story. If I do, it's going to be very vague. I'm not even going to say a synopsis for this movie because it's kind of hard to even give a basic plot synopsis without spoiling anything. Is there even any point at doing a spoiler-free review for Psycho, one of the most iconic movies ever? Everyone knows the plot, or pretty much the plot twist of this movie, even if they've never seen the movie. Everyone knows stuff like the shower scene and stuff like that. There's even a popular TV show called Bates Motel. I haven't watched it. I've heard it's really good. But that is basically a prequel to this movie, I guess. So a lot of the twists in this movie have already been spoiled by popular culture, even if people haven't seen the movie. So maybe it's pointless. I'm going to do a spoiler-free review anyway. But I'm basically going to talk about is the history of this movie, why it's so awesome, and why you should see it. It's a good Halloween movie. Alfred Hitchcock is one of the greatest directors of all time. He was the king of suspense. He was the king of just making good, entertaining, fun movies. And he was great at making mysteries like this. That just kind of like, you need to watch it more than once just to get through all the twists and turns in your head. He was an incredible director. What he can do with the camera is amazing. There is nobody that can just do suspense and thrills and just scares like Alfred Hitchcock. I'm such a big fan. I even have this thing that's just a collection of some of his earlier films, like his silent films and stuff like that, and it's so incredible to watch him. I'm a huge fan. He's done many classics, but this is one of his all-time masterpieces. Psycho is pretty much invented, again, what we define as horror movies. It pretty much invented the slasher genre, which is a genre I'm not a fan of. I don't like those bloody, gory kind of people getting killed movies, really. I mean, if you like them, that's fine, but I don't like them, really. But I love this movie, and it does what those movies get wrong, which I'll get to in a minute. This movie also basically helped define as what we know as the psychological thriller, because there are so many just mind games in this movie, it's crazy. And so much of what we define as suspense and thriller in the genres are defined in this movie. This movie is like the grandpapa of all of those. It started it all. And it's hard to say if it's ever been bettered. The main hero in this movie is Norman Bates, who is one of the greatest characters in movie history. He's played by Anthony Perkins, who is an incredible actor. He was in another movie I love called The Trial, which was directed by Orson Welles. But he was always most well known for playing Norman Bates. Now, Anthony Perkins was an incredible actor. Unfortunately, he pretty much got typecast as Norman Bates as that kind of role throughout his whole life, which is a shame because he's incredible, and his performance as Norman Bates is one of the best ever. He plays Norman Bates as a childish man. He plays him as very innocent. He plays him as kind of like not completely there. And throughout this movie, you actually end up kind of rooting for him. Even though you know that he's caught in this situation where he's basically helping his mother, because he has some huge mother issues, do some terrible things. It's pretty despicable, and we see him, and we're not even sure what side he's really on. It's such a great performance, and the screenplay is so great that you actually end up kind of rooting for him, even though people are getting killed in this movie. And that's what's awesome about this movie, is that it really plays with different moral ambiguities. The best scary stories are ones that help us decide the definition of good and how to figure out good from evil. Even though Norman Bates is helping his mom do some terrible things, we kind of root for him. I could go into more detail about this, but it's impossible to do without spoiling it. But there comes a point in this movie where we start rooting for Norman Bates, where we are on his side. And it's scary because we're like, okay, he's doing this, I shouldn't be rooting for him, but I am. And it helps us, and that's really scary. And there's times in our everyday lives which maybe not too dissimilar from what he's doing. Well, not literally, but you know what I mean, just in terms of that. And that's really cool. I don't know if that's really making sense, but that's what I love about great scary films. It's that morality and deciding, figuring that out and within ourselves. That's the scariest part of life in general, is it? It's like, who am I inside? Who am I really rooting for? And that sort of thing. And that's really powerful to look at. This is just an incredibly acted movie. Janet Leigh plays Marion Crane, and she's great in the movie. The whole cast is amazing. But overall, this is one of those movies where you definitely don't want to know anything going in. So just go see it. It is what it is. It's one of the scariest films in history. It's one of the most suspenseful films in history. It makes you think. It's also just so entertaining to watch. Alfred Hitchcock really made a really brave film in this movie. What we define as storytelling is totally redefined by Alfred Hitchcock in this movie. Because without, again, no spoilers, but about a quarter into this movie, completely the movie that we've been watching changes, and it goes to this new kind of story. It takes lots of twists and turns. It was shocking when it came out back then. It's still shocking today when you watch it. Alfred Hitchcock basically tricked us into figuring out what kind of movie we're watching. It starts off as this kind of mystery thriller, and then it becomes a full-on scary murder mystery, and it's great. There's a lot of psychological terror and all of that in this movie. It kind of combines all the different genres of horror movie, which is kind of cool. And again, it all starts here. But this was also an opportunity for Alfred Hitchcock to kind of do some things which you weren't allowed to do. Now, there's some mature themes in this movie that weren't really as done before it came out. And that was incredibly brave for the time. And he does it in a way that never feels exploitative. A lot of these new slasher movies that come out today, which I don't like, are just about the violence and the blood and gore. And I don't want to see any of that. I don't find that really scary. Like, it's usually more gross than scary. And it's usually the characters you don't care about. It's usually the characters you're practically rooting from them to die because of how annoying they are, especially those dumb, dead teenager flicks that paraphrase what Roger Ebert, the famous film critic, would call them. I don't like those movies. In this movie, Alfred Hitchcock makes you care about the characters, he has you scared for them, and he wants you, the viewer, to kind of figure out the mysteries before they even do. Alfred Hitchcock was great at making the viewer participate in the movie they were watching. It was really genius at that. So it was incredibly brave for the time, and it's incredibly brave today. There definitely is a theme in this movie of, have you ever heard the expression, the chickens come home to roost? It's kind of like that. If you do bad and evil things in your life, it's going to come back to get you. You're going to have to pay the consequences for that. That's definitely a recurring theme here, and it's definitely as scary and as unsettling as it came out all those decades ago. This is an incredible movie. It has one of the most iconic scores of all time by Bernard Herrmann. How many times have we heard that score ripped off? The violence, just like, you know what I mean? I can't even, I'm doing a terrible impression of it, but how many times has that been ripped off parodied by everyone? They probably don't even know that it came from Psycho. Man, Bernard Herrmann was a genius. Everyone who made this movie was just at the top of their game. It's so scary, so entertaining, and it has one of the most iconic scenes in film history. The shower scene. Everyone has seen that parodied. You can do just hours on that scene and why it works, how it makes you think it's something it's not, why it's so scary, what it does to you, the viewer, while they watch it. It's just an incredible scene. I know I'm doing a spoiler-free review, but what's the point? You all know that this movie has that famous, iconic shower scene. There are people who know that scene don't even know it's from this movie. So again, Psycho is a masterpiece. It's incredibly well done. I love Alfred Hitchcock. This is a very scary movie. I don't really have any issues with this movie. It's a classic. I'm going to give Psycho an A+. It is one of the greatest movies ever made. Go check it out. I couldn't recommend it enough. Don't watch it if it's late at night and you're the only person at home. That might be a little too much. Too scary. Alright guys, that's my review of Psycho. Have you seen this movie? Let me know what you think down in the comment section below. This movie's a classic. I'm really looking forward to reviewing more movies. Tomorrow, I'm going to have a new review uploaded, and it's going to be a bit more family friendly than Psycho. Let's put it that way. You guys are the best. Thank you so much for watching this channel. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And never forget, I'm your friend. I'm always going to be there for you. You are the best, and I will see you next time.